Oh my goodness. Hello. I just feel like I'm in a giant white bubble of love and happiness. I genuinely feel like I am living in a hot cocoa cup that has like little surprise marshmallows at the bottom that like floated to the top, and I'm just like hee 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 hoo hoo, and I'm just delighted. Like every day is just finding the marshmallows that float to the top and being like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was marshmallows in here. That's what every day feels like. Before we begin, I'm going to breathe a little bit. I had such a relaxing day. If you know, you know, on Sundays, I actually pull up to one of my yoga studios. As if I'm like some bougie princess who has like 5 yoga studios. I have one yoga studio, but I also go to another studio for HIIT classes. But one of my many yoga studios that I pull up to, I went there and I just spend the whole day there. And it is truly my reset, recharge time. It helps me feel so embodied. It brings me back to myself in such a profound way, especially after the walk. And I will be there from, in some cases, 12 p.m. until 7, all day long. And they're not consecutive classes. There are some buffers in between the classes, like a buffer of sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. And then I'll just sit in the meditation room and relax and just bask in the glow of the Himalayan salt lamp wall, which I need one of those for my future home. That thing is incredible. There is something about being around Himalayan salt lamps, but these are like all put into the wall. It's a full wall of them. It has this most magical glow, and everyone in the room just looks like an earth angel. And it's so lovely. But I'm feeling so relaxed because I did all of these classes. I did something called Trigger Point Yin, which is where you take a lacrosse ball and you put it on certain areas of your body. We focus on the hips today. And whoosh, whoo, you really get some stuff out of your hips. You get some knots out. You didn't even know these knots existed. You didn't know these muscles existed. You didn't know the pain of like putting your entire body weight on a lacrosse ball in your gluteus, in your hippius. Woo, child, it is really something, but you feel so good afterwards. And so I did that, and then I did a sound bath, which the instructor, Natalie, is so wonderful, and she always greets me with the biggest hug and smile, and she just has this big personality, and she loves human design, and so today she was like, oh, Elle, you know what I was thinking about the other day? Because we had all stayed behind class one day to talk about like bringing functionality back to our hips, and that's the other class that I do is called Kite Yoga. It's spelled Kauit, and the whole idea is that you're in these like really uncommon positions for the body to bring functionality back, because we are so sedentary and we're sitting all day long, especially if you work at home or you have an office job, a tech job. And so this yoga practice is designed to like put the body in positions for a while, for like 2-3 minutes, that it's not used to being in, to bring the functionality back to the body. The kind of functionality that someone who would like be chopping wood out in the wilderness would have, because they are using the full range of their body, they're using their legs, they're lifting things, they're walking around, they're going on incline. Imagine like the functionality that a mountain man would have, or like a horse rancher, or anyone who's doing anything like physical that involves like being in flow and being in nature. That person's got a lot of functionality in their body. If you're sitting down and doing the typey type on the keyboard, being a little keyboard monkey like me, then you don't have very much functionality. And you got to go to something like this to bring it back. And I've already noticed a difference. And today we did so much hip work in all of my classes, from trigger point yin to this kite yoga class. And goodness me, I'm feeling it in my hip right now, in my little hip. Ooh, I'm feeling it. She even said, Renee, the instructor, was like, you're probably going to have some sensations arise because we really got deep into the hips today. And I felt that I could stretch deeper than I usually do, which was so exciting. To see like progress in your mobility and your stretching is such a dream. Have you ever experienced that before? It's so amazing. It's like the human body is incredible, and you see these interesting stories about how if you knock someone out on anesthesia, they are so flexible because the mind is what stops your mobility. The mind convinces you that, oh, we can't bend this way, or like we have chronic pain, or, we have limited hip function. The mind really convinces you of that. And when you're knocked out, you get a lot of mobility back because you are not stopping you. There's nothing stopping you anymore. And usually it's just your own, like, oh, this is as far as I can go. But if you can really work to slowly build up the reps of like a practice like this, the kite yoga or trigger point yin, it pays off such dividends. I just feel so much more free when I'm walking around or when I'm at my HIIT classes, and I just feel like I'm free as a bird. It makes me more fluid. It makes me more flow. It makes me like this, in combination with just how amazing life has been lately, has made me like literally dance around like all the time, everywhere. I'm in Whole Foods, I'm dancing. I'm in Chipotle, I'm dancing as I'm eating. I'm just like dancing everywhere. I'm flowing everywhere. I just feel so embodied lately. And it's probably a combination of all of these things I'm doing, all of these classes, the walks, my exercise classes, all of the amazing like insecurities I've been facing and transcending via these videos, even all the writing I've been doing. I wanted to share something with you. I've noticed that I have been writing a lot of short form tweets lately. And this is a little bit interesting because I remember maybe 2 months ago, Danny and Talia had mentioned to me, they were like, I wish you tweeted more because you have so many thoughts and they just pour out of you, but you send them to us, but you don't tweet them. Like, I wish you would just tweet these thoughts. And I was like, oh, because I would write these long form stories that were more thoughtful, that I would actually sit down and just let those words pour out of me, but they were like long tweets. But what I've noticed over the last probably 2 weeks, but there's definitely been an uptick, is that I'm just letting it rip. And when I get like a thought that comes to my mind, like for example, some of them are personal stories. So I wrote this one tweet about how I felt something, like some words left unsaid lingering on my heart. So I picked up the phone and called him, and I call it my Let It Rip sessions. And I did this to a guy, actually not my crush, but another guy. And basically called this guy out of nowhere that I hadn't spoken to in a while, and I was just so honest and spoke my truth. And he was like, you're one of a kind, Elle. You really know how to get my heart racing. And I just love that. So I put that story in there. And then one that I wrote a couple hours ago was, it started with, you're intense. And I said, like the first time that I was ever called intense was before I had a driver's license. And I used to see it as a bad thing, then a good thing, and now a neutral thing. I am intense, I accept it, I love it, and I don't care if you do. And so that was like another piece, and they're on like a whole gamut of things. And I wrote about love. I wrote about how, I liked this one. I got this idea about how to love with an open heart is to erase all of the programming that you installed for past lovers. is that something that feels so alive for me right now. I think especially through some of these diaries and the discoveries that we've had together, I feel like some of my hesitation really comes out of me suppressing parts of my authentic self with romantic interest specifically because of people from the past. So I'll give an example. There was a guy who I dated who, and I don't know why this sticks with me the way it does, but it's the first one floating to my mind, so I'll use it. This is one I'm actively like working to bust, so that's why I think it's on my mind. But I had dated this guy briefly, and this was in my down bad period of 2020 through 2022, and I dated this guy, and I used to have this behavior because I really wanted to distract myself really badly, like I said last night, where I would send like tweets and articles and just like be sending a stream of things via text to the person that I was with. And I don't have that behavior like that anymore because first of all, back then I was not creating anything. I wasn't even really writing the way that I was now. I was way more of a consumer than I was a creator. And that was really important. I would say like a period of consuming content, really high quality content that makes you think and challenges you is fantastic because it'll pay off dividends if and when you ever decide that you want to create. You don't need to create. You don't need to even want to create. But if you ever do want to create down the line, your period of consumption will really come in handy, because a lot of the things that I think make these videos good are how much I consume and did consume back then. It gave me a really good foundation for like, I'm reading good writing all the time back then, or I'm reading funny jokes on Twitter, I'm reading memes, and I'm consuming these short form videos. And it's almost like everything that you consume content wise is seeped into your subconscious and it comes out. It's like every piece of art that you come across in your life stays with you and you can't invoke it in certain moments. And whether it's a joke or it's a meme or it's like, oh, this person said this or this person did this interesting thing with their hands, or it's the smallest little things that you pick up, or this piece of writing or this book that I read and they said this in a certain way and that stuck with me. These videos are basically just a combination of all the things that I consume and experience and go through in my day, and then packaging it in my own little unique funky way that feels fun and alive for me, right? But there can be no creating without consuming. There has to be some kind of inspiration, some kind of muse, some kind of input. So what I'm trying to say is there's no better or worse. They both need to happen, and they, in an ideal world, I would say for me, they happen in kind of a seamless flow, kind of like feminine masculine energy. That's interesting because feminine energy is really around like being and receiving, and masculine energy is really about doing and being a penetrating force, and doing meaning like putting something into the world. So that's kind of interesting. There's a parallel there that I noticed between consuming and creating, masculine and feminine. I would say like the consuming could be seen as feminine, the creating could be seen as masculine. That's really interesting. So I only mention that because Colby from The Walks brought that as his topic, your relationship between consuming versus creating, and if you're not creating anything, what's stopping you from doing so, and what would you create? It was a really, really interesting conversation. And by the way, I think the word creator has gotten really bastardized because people hear that and think, oh, like I've got to be making videos, I'm going to be an influencer. I don't see it like that at all. I see a creator as anyone who puts something into the world that would not exist without them. So if you are that friend in the group chat who puts the plans together and actually gets your friends to come over and do something, you're a creator. You're a creator of a live experience and of genuine connection. If you are a musician, you're a creator. because you're putting your music into the world. If you're a painter or a sculptor or any physical artist, you're a creator. If you like doing videos, of course you're a creator. If you're a writer, you're a creator. If you're a dancer, if you are doing something, if you're giving the world the gift of you in a way that only you can, and it feels like your unique magic that would not be there without your flair, without your input, without your presence. You're a creator. That's how I see it. And I think a lot of the time it's like the answer for what, if you want to bridge the gap between like what you're creating and putting it online or like packaging it, it's really just putting a camera in front of what you're doing in whatever you consider your creation to be. Like, for example, my sister is, it's kind of funny because a lot of these things are so non-obvious, but my sister has this interesting little comfort habit she does where she'll take images she finds online, like graphic text, basically, like little slogans and things, and she'll trace them and just literally that's it. She'll just trace these and kind of create like her own art off of other people's art. And I'm like, that's like that is absolutely creating. And you're doing something that like people would find really valuable, but to her she's just doing it for fun or doing it for, you know, a hobby or relaxation. It's kind of like a coloring book, you know, like it's a kind of a technique to soothe and just to do something tactile, because she does it with her iPad and a pen. And right there, it could be like, why don't you start an Instagram account where you post them? Who cares? You're already making them. Or like put them on Redbubble and make stickers. Who cares? You're already making them. It's like a lot of the time, the answer of like, what if I want to bridge the gap between, you know, my creations and the online, it's really simple. It's like, okay, you're doing something, like how do you just put a camera in front of you or put it in multiple different places that you wouldn't think to put it? But a lot of the time, I think people question whether it's like worthy of being out there. Of course it is. I think this is a really interesting conversation because it's top of mind for me. Think about how many different companies sell the same thing. Think about luxury brands. How do hundreds and hundreds of luxury brands exist? How does Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Chanel, how do all of these things exist and make money? Because everyone has different taste. You have to remind yourself of this. If you try to have these limiting beliefs around, oh, well, there's already so many creators, there's already so many influencers, there's already so many people doing the thing that I'm good at or that I like creating. It's like, yeah, but no one's you, right? Like, think about me in these videos. I don't have the freaking patent on sitting on my floor and meditating and putting a video out. There have been people who have even been inspired to do this because of me. And that's fantastic. And I like love when I see it. Like, it seriously lights me up when people start like, oh, like that's such a great idea. Like I'm going to do that. Fantastic, right? But no one can do it like me because I'm me. And I'm a unique little bird. And I can sit on my floor and talk to myself for an hour. And so even if tomorrow 100 people woke up and said, I'm going to do a meditation video series, that would be freaking awesome. But it would not deter me at all, because just like anything in life, people are going to gravitate towards some energies and not others. People are going to gravitate, if you take the same core idea and have 50 different people execute on it, you're going to have people that you like, that you don't like, that you feel called to, that you don't feel called to. That's just life, baby. So I think that's the most interesting thing to ground yourself in. If you have any kind of limiting beliefs around, oh, I don't want to put this thing online because, you know, it already exists or you've been there, done that. No. Like, here's another example of something that I've done. there was a period right before I started doing these videos, because I was like in this huge creation mode right around Christmas. I was just feeling really inspired, and I was writing a lot, and I started doing these mood boards, literally creating them in Instagram stories composer, which is kind of wild. But I would go in there, and I did it in a way where, this is just to jog my imagination and see what I could put together. My rule was I would Google whatever came to my mind. So for example, it would be like Scarlett Johansson red dress, and then I put that in there, and it'd be like Clippy from Microsoft, put that in there, and like Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet, put that in there. Wolf of Wall Street, Margot Robbie, put that in there. It's like Joan from Mad Men, or black and white person doing a backflip. It's like, it could have been absolutely anything. And usually it was like oddly specific things, and I just like doing it because it showed me like what was in my subconscious mind, and I just loved to see what I came up with. And it was all, they were all pretty random, but it just kind of worked. There was a flow to them, and I would sit there and make these mood boards, just going through the exact process I just told you, and then kind of putting things together and choosing where things went. And I was making them and putting them on Instagram stories, and they were getting really positive reception, and people were like, oh, these are dope, like I love these. So I was like, oh, I'll just keep making them and like start posting them. And you'd be surprised, this is something that's so simple, like you think to yourself, oh, like how many mood boards are there in the world? But mine were actually having an impact on people. Like people were messaging me, and they were like, oh, by the way, we felt inspired to make our own mood boards because of yours. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, I didn't invent the idea of mood boards. I just did my own in my own little funky way, and then people saw it and were like, oh, that's cool, like we should try that. And then they did. It was like, that's freaking awesome. But mood boards exist, and they didn't feel inspired to make them until they saw me make them. And it was like, oh, sometimes it takes somebody who and you have a baseline for doing something to where you feel like, oh, like I like them, I like how they do things, I like their style, I like their flair, so let's just see, almost like I trust their judgment, I trust their creation vehicle, so let's see what we can make from this. There's like a little fun kind of community aspect to it when it's someone and I think people underestimate that. I know I did. I mean, that I was not making content or videos online for a very long time, until literally, the videos as of 30 days ago. But writing online, I was not writing vulnerably. I was using Instagram kind of just like a normal person, posting like pictures from things that I was actually doing in my day, which is lovely. I still do that, but that was really the way that I was using Instagram. But I have so much, creative potential, and so many things that I was just letting die in my notes app, so many pieces of writing that I was, putting nowhere, just like letting it live and die, or like making these mood boards and not sharing them. It's like, what's the point? Like, what would it hurt to actually just hit publish on some of these things that you're making? Because if it doesn't resonate, who cares? And if it resonates, that's great, but who cares? You're making it, you're putting it into the world, so might as well share it and see what happens. So anyway, long story short, I just find that very interesting, that cycle of creation and consumption. It takes both. So no matter where you are right now on like the journey of creation and consumption, it's perfect, baby. It's perfect. And you don't ever have to change it. All I'm saying is like, me being more actively a creator has been so healing and fun and fulfilling for me. But we all know I have a little bit of a spicy brain, and I think my looping obsessive thoughts find tremendous relief by going somewhere. Like the fact that like some of these things that are in here are actually being expressed verbally. They say, they say that when you journal, you're taking the thoughts in your head and you're putting them to paper, and you're almost like removing them from your mind. Like you're like taking them and you're putting them physically somewhere else. That's what these videos feel like for me. But the added bonus is that people find value out of them. That's fantastic. It's like, even if no one watched these and no one found value out of them, I do, because I get so much excitement and relief out of taking the thought and turning the thought into something productive. These videos feel productive to me. It feels like I'm cooking on something. I can share that thing. Someone out there might get one small nugget of wisdom from it. And if we slightly improve one life, we had a great day. So I'm just sharing from my perspective, creation versus consumption. I have gotten tremendous relief out of alchemizing my thoughts into art. So if that resonates with you, explore like what that might look like. Like Colby on the Walk, we were talking about how when he was a little kid, because I always ask people like, what did you love to do when you were a kid? There's usually a lot of signs in your childhood as to like what that creation vehicle would be in adulthood. And so he was like, I loved to play instruments. I played multiple instruments. And I was like, oh wow, like, do you still play? He's like, oh no, not at all. And I was like, like, what would it look like to start playing again? And he's like, well, it's like, what would I do? Where would I even go to play? I'm like, well, break it out into manageable steps, right? It's like, you don't have to go from 0 to 60. You don't have to start playing in a live band tomorrow. But what if you ask around from people on the walk? I know a couple off the top of my head, like Stefan or Lincoln, who have posted before, like, does anyone want to get together and jam out on instruments? And so I'm like, what if you started small and then just blocked out a day of the week where you went over a friend's place and you just jammed out together? And you start there. You start somewhere small, somewhere manageable, like one baby step towards it. And then you get a routine with that. And then you can go to the next level. Then you can go, okay, well, like maybe we'll have some more people join. Okay, great. Like now we kind of have a band. Okay, great. Now maybe we could play. Or like now I'm plugged into the music scene. And if somebody needs a backup pianist for their live concert, then that could be me. It's just, it kind of snowballs. But a lot of the time, people don't start because they don't see the path to the end. You're never gonna go from the start of the hopscotch square to the end. You gotta go through the burp, 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 burp. You gotta go through that. There's no skipping that. You can't just jump over all those squares. So the more you can get comfortable with accepting that you gotta start somewhere, and it's perfect, and it will evolve. If you start doing something and you stick to it, you will get better. It will get more interesting, and it will take way different forms and shapes you can't even imagine, you cannot predict. And it'll just continue to delight you. As if you're doing something that you love to do, you're passionate about, especially if you're passionate about it at any stage of your life, but childhood specifically, you can't go wrong. You cannot lose. You seriously cannot lose. So take that first hopscotch square. What is that action that you can take that's just a little different than what you've been doing? And ride it out. Follow it through. You start at that square and you commit to like actually doing something consistently. In 3 months' time, you don't even know what that will transform into. I think about that all the time. I was watching this video today from Matt Choi. He's one of Danny's friends who's a marathon runner. And he was talking about how when he first started creating content and posting his running videos, they were getting no views. And there was a period where he was like, is this even worth it? Like, should I keep doing this? But he said that there was just this knowing that like, if you just keep doing it, you're going to get better. People are going to find it. There's going to be like some kind of discovery that starts to happen, some kind of word of mouth, and the right people will be magnetized to you, and it'll start to get really cool. And that really resonated because you need to start somewhere. And starting somewhere is actually a really cool part of the story. Like, I think all the time, and you know how many times I've said this with these videos. I love the story arc of these videos. It genuinely lights me up to think, and this has been happening, which is why this is on my mind. People are commenting on like older diaries. Like there was this woman who commented on day 11. That's pretty random. You know, we're on day 30. It's like, how did that happen? And she was like, I'm commenting on this because I really hope that uh, your videos can be seen by more people. And maybe this will like drive it in the algorithm. And I was like, wow, like that's such a nice thing to do. But how the hell did you find it? You know, that was my first thought. I was like, how are people finding this? And that's something that like I will never quite understand. Like I can't see the discovery function on YouTube, but I know that it's happening because I know that I've gotten these random comments from people I don't recognize. But for the first 20 days of the diaries, I was only getting comments from people that I knew. I was only getting comments from people on Twitter, from my friend Danny, from names I recognized. On day 30 is when I'm starting to notice that people I do not recognize, or probably like day 25, because that, I think that was the day I got, on the same day, two kind of confused comments, like the girl saying like, what is this? And then the guy saying like, you don't have to share everything online, sweetie. I got those in the same day. And so that's what I'm trying to say is like, I find it very interesting that if I had stopped at like day 15, if I had just like hung up the coat on day 15, then I wouldn't have gotten to the point where randos are being surfaced to my videos and commenting on them. I say randos with ultimate love, respect, and joy in my heart, by the way. Like if you are a said rando watching this, just know I love you. I love you. I love you. And you're not a rando, you're actually a lovey officially, so welcome. Welcome to the clan. Welcome to the heart-centered, loving jacuzzi of all emotions where people are welcome, accepted, and loved fully for exactly who they are. That's what you're joining here. So anyway, I was just thinking about this because it's just really interesting. Like Matt Choi was super right. Like how he could not have predicted what was going to happen. He could not have predicted how his videos would take off, but if he stopped making them 10 days in, they never would have taken off. It's like the algorithm rewards consistency. People reward consistency. I see that loud and clear through everything I've done. People reward consistency. Look no further than the boardwalks. I've done 83 walks. Yesterday was number 83. And the more that I do, the more people look at what I'm doing with like, what's going on over there, but also just respect and awe. Like, I can't explain people's face when they ask, you know, when you created this, like, when did you create this? And I'm like, oh yeah, July 2022. And they're like, okay, so like how often? I'm like, every week for the last 83 weeks. And they're like, what? It's like truly shocking. And it's just amazing how like that one variable, consistency, you have full control over how consistent you are in anything. You have full control over how consistent you are showing up to something, doing something, creating something. Just like me with these meditation diaries, I put a goal to say I'm going to do these every day. I haven't hit that goal, and that's okay because I have love and self-acceptance, but I've also done 30 of them. Now, if I said I was going to do these every day and I did 2 and fell off the map, you'd probably think a little different of me. And like, yeah, I haven't been perfect, but I've done 30 and I will be doing many more. I aim to do them every day, right? But isn't it so interesting how like your the way that you receive someone changes based on what they say they're going to do and if they actually go out there and do it. I know that makes a difference to me. If I see somebody, go online and say, I'm launching this thing, and then, there's like 2 or 3 things produced, and then that's it, that tells you a little something about that person. And like, there's no judgment here. It's just, what if they kept going? And sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, because I think that there's a lot of people doing things that they're not passionate about because they think it's gonna make them famous, it's gonna make them money. Those two, mainly, famous and money. And really, when the consistency drops is because it just wasn't right. It was not coming from a place of pure, unadulterated joy. Because that's the walks for me, which is why I keep doing them, which is why I'll do them like every week. And it's these videos. These come from a place of pure, unadulterated, unbridled, unfiltered joy and excitement for what I'm doing. And you have to make whatever that is for you, if you're seeking one, really easy for you and feel really fun. Because this is hard. If I didn't like doing this, holy crap, guys. If I didn't like doing this, I would have fallen off after 5 videos. Because after 5 is when things started getting like, it started sinking in that me doing this required me changing my routine. Like, think about it this way. I've got to now bake in 30 minutes to meditate, which I love. And I do not think that I would be meditating every day if I didn't have these videos, by the way. And it has drastically improved my life to meditate for 30 minutes every day. So I'm very grateful for these and for all of you, because though I would be posting them if nobody watched them, the fact that somebody is really exciting. So I love you. But I had to change my routine to do these. I mean, there's a reason why I still haven't posted the updated videos on Instagram or TikTok, because, guys, it takes time. I mean, I walked through one day in a video like 2 weeks ago or so, all of the effort and time that it takes to like make the caption and record the video and putting it into CapCut and export it and even putting it on YouTube requires like uploading and then processing and all of it. And it takes hours. Like, to do something like this, and this is like, I'm doing it in the easiest possible way that you can do something like this. Like, I see this as the easiest way you can create content in the world. That's why I'm doing it this way. Any other way would completely overwhelm me. But I have to eke out. I mean, right now, I've been sitting here for over an hour doing this. So I, work, I try to have a life and go to my little classes, and then I do my meditation diary. Like, I have literally had to bake it into my routine and my schedule. And if I didn't like it, if I didn't genuinely enjoy it, if it didn't light me up, it would be a nightmare. It would feel, I would dread it. I would dread it, and you would feel me dreading it. And that's the thing. When you dread doing something, you're just gonna stop doing it. There is no sustainability in dread. No. The only sustainability that comes is from joy. And here we are 30 days later, and 30 more. So it's so interesting to think about. But speaking of joy, I'll tell you, because it's late and I should probably go, and I'd like to eat some popcorn. I got some from Whole Foods. I treated myself to 4 new candles today. I went goblin mode. So there's that. Oh, I have some bad news. I don't know what happened, guys, because as you can see, this hydrangea plant is doing so well, but the other one really took a bad turn out of nowhere, and I don't understand how it happened, because I've been treating both of them in the same exact way. But I talked to the woman at the Whole Foods, and she was like, sometimes they just go into shock because they moved, you know, they went to a new environment and they're just finicky. And so it didn't die, but it's just not cute. I'm thinking about trimming off. I was doing some research on like basically the flowers. Like it has flowers, but not completely. Like there are like basically half bulbs. So it just looks a little sick, which is why I don't have it in the video anymore, because it's like what's going on back there. This one's beautiful. This one is like in full bloom, gorgeous. I mean, cannot get a more picturesque hydrangea than this little guy. And I'm very proud of him. And I've like been really on top of the care. That's why it's so sad. But you know, this other one I'm thinking of trimming off the bulbs, because what I thought was going to happen is that it was actually going to regrow in like the dead areas, but that's not happening. So I'm thinking that maybe I just need to cut the bulbs and have them resprout anew. So if anyone has any recommendations or tips for that, let me know, because I'd like to have both of them featured, but one is looking a little sick and dilapidated. And I just, you know, want to keep the energy high. And so she's yin, because she's a lady. And, you know, she kept herself shiny and bright. So yin over here is doing fantastic. Now yang, the man in the equation, is on the struggle bus. Surprise, surprise. We love men in this household, but he's a little sick right now. But anywho, I'll tell you one more story and then I'm going to go eat my popcorn. So yesterday's walk was divine. I mean, I mean that word seriously. It literally felt like there was a higher power operating on that walk. And honestly, every single one feels like this to me, because the amount of synchronicities and serendipities that happen on the walk is unbelievable. I mean, it shocks me every time, but yesterday was ratcheted up to a degree that I have not seen on any other walk. So here we are on walk 83. It was a massive crowd. I mean, this group was so large. I think we cracked 100 people. It was so large that we had to split the group at the crosswalk, because not everyone could walk across at the same time. That is a large group to like not make it across in time. So that just gives you some context. It was a beautiful day. It was like the most ideal Austin weather ever. And if there was ever a city that had weather like that all the time, I mean, that might be LA. God bless. I mean, I understand why y'all are so happy out there, because that kind of weather, that like 72 and sunny, that's the stuff of legends right there. That is pure bliss, pure ecstasy. And we had that yesterday. And we were joined by just amazing people. The energy was so good, so high. Lincoln even said that he was in the coffee shop and he wasn't planning on joining the walk because he was going to do some writing. And then the energy was just so good that he could not help himself and he joined the walk anyway. That's what we were working with yesterday on number 83. But this is what I mean by it was divine. As you know, with the boardwalks, it's a 5-mile walk where curious, kind, open-minded strangers get together and have meaningful conversations. And so it truly is a magical experience, and I very much see one of the philosophies of the boardwalks as planned serendipity, meaning that there's a lot of magic in having interactions that would never have occurred without this walk. You meet people you never would have met because they're in different industries, they're different ages, they're different friend groups. You have no clue who's going to be there, and you have no clue who you're going to talk to. So it really is, a surrender experiment. It is like truly you show up open-minded, kind, and curious, and you will get something out of it. You may not get what you want, but you'll get what you need. It might even be a negative moment. It might even be an awkward moment. You know, it may not be what you're thinking it's going to be. By life-changing conversations, sometimes that's not even about the content of what's said. Maybe that's about something awkward that happened that taught you about yourself. So there was this, yesterday, this amazing energy on the walk. And I was explaining in the first little bit of the walk to my friend Sarav that I intentionally designed the walks to be hard to get to so that the people who are there made the distinct choice to be there despite how hard it is to come. So I was telling him, I hear the same story over and over again. I really, my alarm went off. I didn't want to go, but there was a voice that came over me and said, you have to show up today. It's important. You need to go. And then I went, and then I had a life-changing conversation. Thank you so much. And I've heard that same story, versions of it, same energy, basically like I felt resistance to coming and then I found the courage to join and then it changed my life. I have heard that, I'm not kidding, hundreds of times at this point. And it is so true and alive. Like that level, that moment of courage when you choose to do the difficult thing and like it's 6:30 in the morning and you wake up and you're groggy and it's a Saturday and your like eyes are glued shut by your own eye boogers and you're like, I don't want to go. But then the voice takes over and you actually listen to it. And then you go and you put yourself out there and it's like not that scary and you had a good time and you learn something and you feel comfortable, you feel safe. Oh my gosh. Like the walk really puts people on a path to a better life, to a higher state of consciousness even, which is partially how I designed the walks off of the map of consciousness. But I could go into that later, one of these days. So I told my friend Sarv this because I had never shared that with him, like my intentionality about the experience design and how important the intentional friction is. And then, I kid you not, the whole rest of the walk, and Sarv was here for most of this, people were coming up to me, like finding me intentionally to tell me the same exact thing that I just said. People who, like one guy was like, I just want you to know I had a really hard day yesterday and I felt really down in the dumps and sad and I didn't want to come today, but something just told me, you know what, it's going to make you feel better, you're going to get out of your own head, and there's probably a conversation you're going to have that is going to shift something for you. So I came out and I already feel so much better than I did yesterday. And I'm so grateful for this space. And I'm so grateful that I have the choice to decide whether or not to come and that I'm accepted no matter what. That was the first one. I was like, wow, what are the odds of that? The next one rolls through. This guy who had never, that guy I just told you about has come like 30 times. Now this new guy, he's like, I came here for the first time. I was invited by Trent. I'm in his YouTube community. Hilarious. I didn't even know Trent had a YouTube community and I've seen Trent like 20 times. This just goes to show you how little I ask normal questions. I am not asking, what do you do for work? You know, what do you do for fun even? I mean, we're just talking about ideas. I'm not asking any of the surface level stuff. So when people say to me like, oh, what does this person do for work? I have no clue. I have no clue. I literally have never talked about work on the walk once. And if someone brings up, oh, you work at Meta, right? Yeah, I do. I don't like talking about it. Period. End of story. End of conversation. So I'm not the right person to ask these things. And so he's like, yeah, I'm in Trent's YouTube community and I was hoping to, get some time with him and ask him some questions about his career path in tech sales. And he said, you should come on this walk. I go every week. We can chat a little bit there. You can meet some other people, broaden your perspective. And it's a fantastic experience. And he's like, I'm not going to be there tomorrow because I'm out of town, but you should go. So this guy comes and he's like, I woke up this morning and I felt resistance to coming. And I just thought, there was a voice that came over me like Jonah in the whale that said, you should do this thing. And instead of ignoring it like Jonah did, this guy said, you know what? I'll just do it and see. What can I lose? And he came on the walk. He ended up having a conversation with this guy, Paulie. And he's like, it was a spiritual experience for me because we had almost identical life paths. We're both from the same area of the country. We both had the same struggles. And he genuinely feels like a brother to me. And we're going to get the wives together and go out to dinner. And like, I genuinely feel like I met somebody who was walking my life path on this walk today. And it felt like a spiritual divine intervention for me to meet this guy. So I hear that. And it's like literally these moments, guys, like 5 times. Like for every mile of the walk, somebody came up to me and said the same story basically in different words. It was just magical. Like it literally by the end of it brought a tear to my eye because I was in such disbelief that it kept happening. Like after I had started the walk by telling Sarav that this would happen so many times, and then I almost just manifested into my reality. Like I said, oh, you know, this happens to Sarav. People find the courage to come. And then the universe said, LOL, yeah, here's 5 people who did that today. It's so special. Sarav witnessed like 2 or 3 of them. You float around, so you never really like, it's rare to stay with the same person the whole time, but I really like spending time with Sarav on the walk because his energy is just so calm and gentle and grounded, and he really makes me feel safe to be myself. I think like a calm man really does bring out like the softest, sweetest, most loving, nurturing version of me, and he really is like, there's a group, a core, you know, group of the community members, the members of the board, if you will, who really hold down the like strong, confident, comfortable, gentle, but just calm energy, that calm masculine energy. And when I see them roll up, I'm just like, I can breathe. I love when those guys come up. I love those guys. They know who they are. I don't want to out them like that, but a calm man is such an asset, such a game changer. Sarav is one of them. Whenever I see him, I get so happy because I'm like, no matter what happens on this walk, I've got Sarav, and I can just float over to him and we can giggle and laugh and play and be goofballs and then be serious and talk about serious things, but then also just be goofballs and hug, and like we walk next to each other and we'll literally just be like holding each other. And it's just the best. It's just such a beautiful energy, and I'm so grateful whenever I see him. Like I just feel like my nervous system is like honey when I'm around him and when I'm around calm men like that. So, anyhoozle, I'll leave you here because whooshie mama, this one's long again. I've got so many more stories and things to tell you. I got a story for you tomorrow about Cameron, a guy who I met at Lizard Yoga. And that is an incredible story of miracles. So we'll keep the miracle train running. And there's also another one that I haven't even told you yet. Oh my gosh, so magical. I'm going to get up to speed, and I'm also going to really focus on starting to post things on Instagram and TikTok again, because I'm behind, and like every day that passes that I don't post them, I'm like, oh my god, I'm falling behind. So I'm gonna figure it out and start putting like the little clips on there again. So please pray for me, send me good vibes, and send me the ability to do it, the ability to catch up, and to also just not be too hard on myself. I don't think I'm being hard on myself, but let's keep it that way. I love you so, so much. Thank you for being here. I hope you have the most amazing weekend and so relaxing. I hope you took a day of this weekend for yourself and found time for the joy and the slowness and the stillness and just the juicy insights that come from solitude really blow my mind. So if you had anything that floated to your awareness this weekend that really excited you or really clicked, I would love to hear about it. But I love, love, love you. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye. talk to you later. Bye bye.